cornerstones. If you're a visionary, you not only see the future as you would like it, and then people like people who see the future better and more specifically. But a real leader can empower other people to see their vision and have it tie in. A lot of people fall short. There are a lot of people with vision. There are very few who are able to tie other people into that vision and make it their vision. Remember, end vision is more important than just vision. Realist. We're pretty good at that. We deal with what's available. How much money you got to work with, what's your education, how old are you? You're realistic about the parameters, factual, that you're limited to dealing with these hard factual things. Ethics. I could do 2 hours on ethics. Of all the things I know, this is the most important of all. Non-situational integrity and a higher level of human values ruled by principle rather than fear or pleasure. Lying is non-situational. You either are honest or you're not. There's no such thing as being almost pregnant. You're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. You're either honest or you're not honest, and it has no shades of honesty. And to be able to do things without pleasing yourself, to be dishonest, or to be able not to cover up something you're afraid of and be dishonest, is making the hard choices of ethics. But I can tell you it develops trust when you do what you say, and if you can't do it, you tell them you can't do it, and if you're a person with personal and professional integrity, they can't stop you. Billy Graham is one like that. I get a kick out of Billy Graham. He looked at me and said, "How many lives you changed?" I said, "One." One. "I've changed one life, sir, mine." He said, "Me too." He said, I give them lots of literature and I give them a good motivational talk, and they come down from the stands to the infield and they pray with me, and I give them literature and they go back to being themselves unless they're ready to make a commitment to change themselves. "You don't change anyone, Dennis." I said, I know. So don't start reading your own PR. Best leaders of all are very ethical and very humble, very approachable. Why? Conceit is God's gift to shallow people. People with low self-esteem are calling for help, and they need a lot of attention. Courage. I thought courage was running up a machine gun nest, throwing a grenade at it, and blowing yourself up with the enemy. Courage is the ability to get out of your comfort zone. It's based mostly on training and experience and knowledge. To be able to make a decision to internalize personal responsibility. We rate ourselves pretty good on realism. I think most of us are pretty realistic about what we've got to work with. We rate ourselves way too high on ethics. Most people can't make the distinction between bottom line, money, and people. We are mistaken on vision because we don't inspire other people enough and help them innovate, and we're much too high on courage. The problem is we lecture on courage, but we don't get out of our own comfort zone, so we need to set the example. I've been working for many years with our Olympic athletes. I was chairman of psychology for the United States Olympics for 12 years, 80 to 92. And there are success traits that we look for in every athlete and coach and leader, and there are problem traits. Interestingly enough, the problem traits will get in your way more than the success traits will help you. So, of course you need self-confidence, but a different kind. The confidence you need is in your potential. Because if you're confident that you have potential, if you see world-class potential in yourself, you'll put in the effort. If you don't see the potential, you won't put in the effort, and you'll wait for the performance. But performance always follows the belief in self. So confidence is a combination of believing in the potential, and then once you start doing things, of reinforcing the success. Ambition is always wanting to be better than you are and not resting on laurels. Conceptual thinking is the ability to put together a vision of the future that you can see in a way that the mind can grasp it as a realistic goal. And mental toughness is the ability to handle enormous setbacks. You'll find that every winner, like Lance Armstrong, can handle the fall or the cancer and handle it because they have the mental toughness to continue to persevere. The problem traits are ones I worry about because in our society we live in a skin-deep celebrity culture, and we have this lack of self-control. We have people that are off the wall. They get angry. There's road rage, job rage, every kind of rage, air rage. Everyone gets upset all the time over trifles. People look at me and say, you big, fat, dumb klutz. We hate you, your religion, your mother, and your country. I said, really? That's interesting. I'll give that some thought, maybe. We hate you. You got a big nose, big ears, buck teeth, and you're not as good as Tony Robbins. I said, I'm into a self-improvement program and need lots of encouragement. Thank you. They said we didn't mean it as encouragement. I said, that's okay. I took it that way anyway. I haven't been angry in 20 years. No one's tried to kill me. The only way I get angry is if they're victimizing some young child or somebody who's in need. I get angry with victimizing, but I don't get angry with people who say things. I mean, people differ all the time. So don't worry about any of that. Lack of self-control. Inflexibility is when you're so narrow that everyone's wrong because you think you're right. If I've learned anything, it's to be flexible, to accommodate opinions without having to embrace them. The most difficult thing in our society is over-emotionality, because it's difficult to change, because it's usually either a combination of inborn, but especially as young children. What I really worry about are homes that get all upset and fly off the handle and start arguing and get this big off-the-wall kind of thing. Emotionality should be no problem, can do. You see the accident, you pull out the flares, you direct the traffic. The time to really get cool is when things are really tough. And the people who are overly emotional can really be swayed by the media and the sound bites. Limits versus limitations. I want to set myself free. I'm tired of having the media control me. Limits are physical, limitations are psychological. You'll never outgrow the limitations. You'll only set new ones within which you must live. Everyone has an income limitation. They believe they're only worth so much. Add a zero. I dare you to add a zero on your income. You'll find that you're as good as the best, but no better than the rest, but as good as the best. If you can separate your limits, which are age, maybe physical characteristics, limitations are psychological. And of course, the ones we place on ourselves are the biggest ones of all. I've always said that POW, prisoner of war, Prince of Wales, putting on weight, power of women, psychology of winning. POW is a bumper sticker. It doesn't mean anything unless you have experience with it. Little boy looked at POW, P-O-W, and went, pow. I said, yeah, pow to you, P-O-W, Prince of Wales to me. He said, putting on weight to you, sir. You are who you were until now. You will become what you've learned this weekend, over 250,000 hours of past conditioning if you're 40. So if you're 40 years old, you'll get 12 hours over 250,000. You will not have a life-changing experience unless you reorganize the iceberg, the denominator. View where you came from differently than you now view it. Failure is fertilizer. It's a learning experience. Don't wallow in it. Grow from it. Never carry failure forward. It's an event, not a person. There are no failures. There are just learning experiences. Future behavior is based on re-recording on top of the old conditioning, which you cannot erase. New information. Price of success is very expensive. It involves personal responsibility, distancing yourself from negative peer groups, getting outside your comfort zone, and taking responsibility for the outcomes. And this is really the first major point. For many, many years, I watched a lot of television because it was tension relieving. I knew it wasn't goal achieving. Tension relieving or goal achieving? How are your evenings? What are your weekends? How do you spend your free time? What do you control in your life? You certainly control your spiritual beliefs, so believe strongly the way you want. You control your thoughts and attitudes, which come out of your beliefs. You certainly control your goals. They're yours. Your commitments to your goals, no one controls those but you, and your priorities, you control. Your role models, you don't always control them, and your kids are really attracted and fascinated by the Britney Spears syndrome. They're attracted by celebrities. They're attracted by action and violence. Why? It's just visceral. It's like a roller coaster ride where you put your arms up. It frightens you, but you want to do it again. And so there's this role modeling going on. Unfortunately, many of their personal lives don't match their money accomplishments. Your knowledge sources, you control those. You control your memberships, who you join. You control whether you listen or talk. And the most important thing I've learned is that third one, your free time, which I call prime time. Why is it prime time? Because it's from 7 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 nights a week. I'm tired of watching other people making money having fun in their professions. They want us to watch so they can get ratings and earn more money. And we watch them because we're unhooking from the monotony of our lives, and we're hoping to somehow escape from the drudgery of regular life to live through the celebrities and reality television. It actually entertains us. But if you will, understand, I've written 15 books, and every one has been written in prime time. 7 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and on Saturdays. You see, I can't write during the week. I'm earning money. I'm putting food on the table. I have to be doing in prime time what the rest of the population is not willing to do. And the differentiation between success and mediocrity is what you do in prime time. Whether you read, whether you write, whether you computer, network, and whether you have intimacy. And the other thing you can do in prime time, which is fantastic, is get off the couch and out. Get out of the house and into ethnic restaurants. Get to job fairs, computer shows, anything that will let you and your family realize the options that you have in a world so full of abundance that it's like a gingerbread world. If you'll just take your children out of the television internet world and out to where it's happening and live it rather than watch it. You control your friendships, educational level, and you do control your discretionary income, which we call disposable income in the United States. We call it disposable because we get any extra, we dispose of it as quickly as we can. That way we buy things that make us feel good and we go places and put it on our MasterCard. Buy now, pay never. Response to daily events, you control your response, and that's why it's so important to understand that bad news sells. The fire that burns another warms the general population, the fact they're glad they weren't the victim of the day. So people pass on bad news, it insulates them and isolates them from the tragedies that are happening to other people. Please understand, good news never sells because it's elevator music. Good news is no news at all. So the only thing you'll witness is everything that's happening that's bad, and it'll give you just a little bit of a feeling of jaded concern unless you understand that it's been going on since the beginning of time. Energy crisis looms, whale blubber shortage, 1862. Your own internal standards, best in your knowledge, rewards and consequences. And please, as long as your children don't get either physically or emotionally damaged, don't take their lunch to school when they forget it. Tell them we'll be eating early tonight and ask them to borrow some lunch money or a sandwich from one of their friends and let them experience the logical consequence or reward of their own actions, and then put their lunch by the door the next day. But please, don't create turkeys when you want to create eagles who can fly from the nest. CEO of your own life, but a team player? Yes. The statue of responsibility. Many speakers like me talk about Viktor Frankl, Viktor Frankl. He led the resistance movement in Auschwitz and Dachau. He watched with, if you will, detachment, people who became virtual saints or animals, depending on whether they ate or didn't. And he found the most curious thing, and Jim alluded to it earlier. Shared responsibility creates a very interesting aspect physically. If you eat all the bread that you have, you live. If you eat only a piece of the bread but share the other part, you live longer than if you ate all the bread. Why? because you're taking responsibility for someone other than yourself, so you're accountable. You're looking beyond yourself. Viktor Frankl, many years ago before he died, I think he died in 1995, but Viktor Frankl came to, like Solzhenitsyn did from Russia, and said that we should erect on Alcatraz the Statue of Responsibility. And I've been petitioning for it. It won't be built. Usually they want a casino or just a tourist place out there in the old rusting Alcatraz, but you remember what that island rock would be like if she was standing on it. Think about her, the Statue of Responsibility, the twin of the Statue of Liberty. You remember the French gave us the Statue of Liberty, and she stands tall guarding Ellis Island at Battery Park. And she has, remember, the chains and the tablet in one hand and the torch in the other, and the torch says, "Bring me your tired and hungry. Come on in, immigrants. Free to choose, free to win, free to lose." This country gives you that freedom of choice. But on the other harbor, in San Francisco, on Alcatraz, should be the other lady, the forgotten side of freedom. The reason no society has ever survived its own success, because they forgot what happens when you make a choice. You always get the reward of the unfailing boomerang. Your rewards will always equal the quality and amount of service you render first. And there she stands, looking out the Golden Gate Bridge, the Statue of Responsibility, an eagle in one hand, the great American desire to be free of all restrictions, to do what we want, say what we want, dress how we want, be how we want. But in the other hand of the Statue of Responsibility is a baby, which signifies our responsibility to the next generation. For every choice that we make, we have to live with that choice for generations to come. Well, it won't be built. And I learned early about responsibility because I was a chauvinistic pig Navy Top Gun jet pilot at Miramar, just when Tom Cruise was crawling around with a pacifier then, too. I wore my flight suit to mow the lawn. The neighbors would know who lived next door. Put my helmet on, drove a Porsche Target looking for Honda Civics. Used to chase Hondas. Get over there. I'm only in second. Blow sailboats back to the starting line in San Diego Harbor. One sailboat gets ahead, it's not fair. You blow them all back and start over again. The greatest thrill of a Navy pilot is that when you're 22, you can't die. So you believe you're immortal. So you find a farmer. He's driving a John Deere, which you know is Russian. It's a half-track, and he's plowing alfalfa over in the Imperial Valley. There's 4 of us. We pretend we're the Blue Angels. We come in from the 4 points of the compass, supersonic, so he can't hear us coming. We do a fleur-de-lis air show and hit the afterburner, coming straight down on his tractor, and raise it off the bean patch. It's called levitation, the helicopter effect. The farmer looks frightened. It hits the irrigation disc. He leaps off the tractor. But a farmer is the only person that can leap off his tractor and memorize your number going by. And then call the authorities. It was those Navy guys again. That's the mentality I had. 2 Charles Bronson Viva Zapata bullet belts, a .45. They take me hostage. They take me dead. Crocodile Dundee knife, walked into my kitchen, threw my gun belt on the counter. The warrior is home and he's hungry. My wife said, "Have a bud. It's in the fridge." "What you doing there?" "I'm trying to feed your daughter Gerber's strained squash and she won't eat it." I said, "She eats what we give her." I was raised with Ross Perot. She said she doesn't like it. That's why I'm giving her applesauce and some selections. I said, "Selections?" Don't give her any dessert unless she cleans her plate. That's the way we were raised, which is why I'm chubby today. I just clean my plate no matter if I'm hungry or not. He said she won't eat it. And I said, "I'll show you what she'll do. You want to learn how to raise children? Use the old power management. Firings will continue until morale improves. I'll show you." Put my helmet on. Daughter strapped in, can't get out. 11 months old, perfect. Open up, management. Gums clamped shut in defiance, pupils pinpointed in her eyeballs. "Well, you don't like to be intimidated, huh? Maybe you're like your father, mind of your own. I'll give you the managing by wandering about I learned from Stephen Covey. What you do is you You eat half the jar of Gerber's strained squash yourself. That way the child sees a role model and mentor doing what you want them to do. Then they watch you doing it, they love and respect you, and then they do it. It's called airplane in the hangar. Airplane in the hangar. Delicious fiber-based carbohydrate, food of the gods. I saw her eyes flash with anger, and I knew what she was thinking, although she could not talk. Go ahead, fatso, you like it, you eat it. I said, don't you look at your father like that. You don't look at your father like that. You eat what we give you. The phone rang, my wife left. Good, time for me to take over. A little power management, use fear. Baby buyers coming by and I don't need much money. I did what no person should ever do to a child. I've never done it again. No one was watching except God, and he was letting me make a fool of myself. I'll push your cheeks together. Can you imagine anyone doing that with an 11-month-old child strapped in a high chair? That's what you really call arrogance. I stuffed it full of squash like every good father would do. She decided to die by holding her breath. Her face turned red and purple. So did mine. I said, you're not the only child. Before you die, you'll swallow. Stop holding your breath. 15 seconds gone on the kitchen clock. No brain damage. Hang on. Put a mirror under her nose. No condensation. That's okay. Come on, honey. 5 bites of squash. Gets 1 bite applesauce. Has a commission if the squash clears. Any question? And then she began to make rapid decisions at 11 months old. Angle, range, distance. I felt the linear accelerator through the nozzle effect. As you know, when you squeeze a hose at the end, it goes further. As I squeezed, she exhaled, and a steady stream of Mount St. Helen went up my nasal pituitary area. I made a fatal Southern California yuppie air. I went... Have you ever snorted squash? It burns, it clogs. I tripped on the high chair and fell convulsing on the floor. Fortunately, I was wearing my helmet. My wife, Southern Baptist, walked in. She said, what happened, Top Gun? I said, nothing. She doesn't like squash. Don't make a big deal about it. The years have flown. The children have grown and flown. But sometimes us old road warriors don't come to these meetings and commit to change. My kids, grown and flown, come over for Easter dinner. I gave them their inheritance meeting. I dare you to give your children an inheritance meeting when they reach about 18 to 20. What you do is you bring them all over and tell them how much they're going to inherit as a result of your untimely demise at some point in the future. They'll come dressed in designer clothing. They'll come early, and they'll hang on every word. And I dare you to say, we want you to have the same joy of earning that we've had. So there won't be any windfall at the end of the road, because we know you'll want to take a world trip, a cruise, or buy a new Ferrari. Instead, we're going to give you education and help you if things go bad. But we're going to give you the same joy of personal responsibility and earning that we have had. Oh, my children, we love you so much. And the residual of our estate is going to abused orphans who've never had a mother or father or education. We feel like abused orphans. I said, how do you account for the fact your adopted sister from Mexico is doing better than some of you? She said, easy to explain. We have your genes. I said, well, yeah. Yeah, you treated her like a customer and us like employees. We love her, Dad. Don't call her adopted. Drop the adjectives. My daughter said to me, Dad, I noticed we have some summer squash with marshmallow and pineapple in it to kill the taste. I said, yeah, you have summer squash. Your grandma brought potluck, and you'll eat grandma's squash. You get Haagen-Dazs for dessert if you clean your plate. You eat what grandma brought. She has a heart valve problem, needs lots of encouragement. But I don't like squash, Dad. I never have. Well, there's a squash gene or it's El Nino. I don't know why you don't like squash. He said, we do. I said, yeah, your mother tried to force feed you when you were young. She said it was El Padre, not El Nino. It was you, Dad. And one thing I've learned, children take over very early in life and start making choices. And punishment is also if you will, not a good thing. It's different than discipline. Punishment gets a reaction, and therefore people will act up in order to get punished. At least they're getting attention. And please, if you have small children, please don't give them treats and goodies when they whine. Because if whining gets a reward, the whining will accelerate and become a tantrum, which gets more rewards. And if you wait till the children are in public, it's way too late, because you can't let them act up in public. So please, at home, delay their gratification and let them get a logical consequence to their action, which is usually a timeout or a penalty box or a loss of a small privilege, but not punishment, because it's a form, if you will, of reward. Every choice carries a responsibility of living with it, and this second point, beyond self-determination. Okay, all right, I'm driving, and God says that I should make decisions and follow role models with proven track records of success. So what you're saying is that you deal the cards and I play the cards based on what I believe is right. Yes. The second Olympic ring would be self-esteem, which I really believe in. I believe that winners believe in their dreams when that's all they have to hang on to. I believe that what gets in the way is fear, and fear is always of catastrophic danger. Fear is obviously of rejection. Fear is of failure and of change, the unfamiliar. The unknown, the unfamiliar, the rejection. The bottom one is where I've been stuck. Most speakers claim they're raised in a poor family. I was. My father was a penniless alcoholic, died of lung cancer and cirrhosis of the liver. He said, these things will kill you, and they did. And he smoked because he saw the movie actors and actresses smoke. And during our days, the best seats in the theaters were all smoking. They were called the loggias, and they were all leather with ashtrays. And so the smokers would sit in the best seats in the house. They'd buy the cigarettes out in the lobby and be smoking. We could just barely see the screen, which is why we sat in front. So he drank and smoked himself to death. And as a result, I grew up with the fear of success, doubting myself and feeling guilty when I had success. If you've come from a family that does not have money or success, you might think that you're just a little reckless, believing that you're worth it. But overcome the fear of doubt and the fear of guilt. Guilt is when you get the biggest piece of cake at your own birthday. Guilt is when you do well and other people say, I got lucky. And they think you're selfish because you're successful. But you must be able to step out and forward and handle the guilt and doubt that other people may have. False evidence appearing real, all the speakers use that. Ignorance, what will happen? Prejudice, I can't forget what happened. And premonition, it will happen again. The mind is incredible. It'll happen again, I know it. I can't forget what happened. I'm not going to get married again because of that experience. And what will happen in the future? I've just written a book, Safari to the Soul, How to Overcome Fear in the Savage Paradise Called Life. I think life is a savage paradise. I think it's a paradise to people who know how to work with it, and it's a savage place for those who don't. And the most important thing to understand is that life is a jungle, and a jungle is neutral. Life is a backdrop, and you and I are the players. The question is, do you want to be an unfamiliar tourist in the jungle, or do you want to be a guide? If you're a guide, you understand. You understand that there's breadfruit, bananas, mangoes, papayas, and clean water and places to hide. If you're a tourist, there are black mambas, yellow mambas, scorpions, lions, tigers, and there's malaria and yellow fever. There's all the dangers if you're inexperienced. If you're experienced, you see the potential. If you're inexperienced, you see the danger. Knowledge, training, skills, and experience overcome fear. You get role models, coaches, and mentors. They help you learn the correct swing. And then you gain courage and confidence with knowledge and training. The best way to overcome fear is knowledge and action, and that's why you're here. You're here to eliminate the fear of the unknown, the fear of rejection, the fear of change, and the fear of success. Self-esteem, I'd like to give it to every child in the world, a deep down inside the skin feeling of your own worth, regardless of your age, your looks, your ethnicity, your gender, or your background. Given my parents and my background, I'm glad I'm me. I'd rather be me living at this time than any other time in history. I'm not the best